Hey everybody, Kimberly here, and I'm excited to share with you a game called Steery. This is a game where players are steering a story in their direction using these story cards that really inspire a lot of creativity and critical thinking. Some problem solving in some cases because players have to really argue their case if other players in the game contest their contribution to the story. So to set things up, all you need to do is take out the end cards and the new character cards from the deck for the time being. Shuffle up those decks and keep them separate. You've got these large cards. These are going to be your character deck cards, and you've got these smaller cards. Those are your story card decks. And then you're going to deal 5 story cards to each player. Then you're going to shuffle back in those new character and the end cards into this massive stack of cards and choose player 1. That player is going to draw and reveal 1 character card. Let's say we drew the Doctor. And they're going to have this character as the inspiration for their story and concept. So player 1 is going to begin. They're going to set the stage, draw a story card from their hand, place it out, telling a story incorporating that particular element, component, action, or thing into the story to get the ball rolling. That's essentially what player 1 does. Then they draw the card from the top of the story deck and add it to their hand so that they have 5 cards. Every player is simply going to repeat the same final steps of playing a card from their hand, adding it to the story, and players are going to keep these cards in front of themselves so that they can keep track of their points. And at the end of a story or a couple stories, you are going to add up all your points, and whoever has the most points wins. When you steer the story in your direction, make sure you do all of the 3 following things. You have to include the entire concept into your story, so whatever your card is, it has to be fully incorporated. For example, if I drew the card to put the past behind and move on, it needs to, in full, be incorporated into my part of the story. But your story must also be pretty short. Think about 2 to 4 sentences. It's going to be essentially a small paragraph. And then the last thing is you must advance the storyline. There has to be some progress in the story for your contribution to count. Other players should question and make sure that you are not spending too much time thinking of what you need to think of. And let's say maybe you don't like the cards you have, you don't think that they can help you progress the story. For your turn, instead of contributing to the story by playing a story card, you can also choose to pass on your turn, and then you discard a card and draw a new card from the deck. So that is a possibility. If you draw a new character card, you are simply going to draw the top character from the character deck and add it to the center of the table next to, for example, our Doctor that we started the game with. And that character is now a permanent character and must be fully incorporated into further storylines that players contribute to with their story cards. If you draw a card that says "The End," ignore it unless you have reached the round minimum for your player count. For example, in our 5 to 6 player game, we are going to go 3 revolutions or 3 rounds where every player gets to contribute at least once, 3 times in turn order before we end the story. So our Doctor goes to work one day at the hospital and finds the entire hospital is completely empty. There are no people, there are no patients, there's no one there. I buy that. Sounds good to me. So this Doctor walks around every hallway, can't find a single soul, picks up the phone, gets a dial tone, and tries to alert the police that there's something weird going on. And it just rings and rings and rings. Nice. Okay, so they hang the phone up and they go to the break room, get in the fridge, and just pull out their salad so that they can just have a little bit of food on their stomach. I don't know if I buy that. I don't know. Well, I mean, you can't investigate weirdness without eating your lunch. The more the Doctor walks around the hospital in this eerie silence and quiet, the more they realize that this might be the apocalypse. This might have been a mass event where a lot of people just disappeared. Great contribution. So I drew a new character, so I'm going to find out who joins our story. It is a soldier. At the same time, the doctor has this epiphany that perhaps everybody just disappeared and just left behind no trace. They hear the whoosh of the sliding doors of the front desk at the hospital, and in walks a soldier who has abandoned their post and says to them, "It's been 2 hours. I haven't seen a living soul. You're the first person I've seen." As you can see, Steery creates really interesting, memorable stories and really asks players to listen, pay attention, offer details, critically think about how you can progress a story, but how you can make it in a concise 2 to 4 sentence contribution. This game is overly replayable and even has the possibility of designing your own characters based on the kind of genre you're looking for. So there is this massive character deck here in the game, but maybe you could ask all of your players to contribute a particular character and you can incorporate them into the story in a very similar fashion to incorporating said soldier into my doctor story. So a lot of potential here, a whole lot of fun. You'll see that cards range 1, 2, 3, and 4 points in how easy or how difficult the concept is to include in the story. But get creative, get wild. This can be tons and tons of fun for you and your group. Again, 3 to 8 players, and it takes about half an hour to play, and you can play multiple stories back to back. So check out Steery, get your hands on this storytelling game, and just let loose. I don't know about that.